Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest Tech Partner video discussion. My name is Andrew Knight, and I've been working for RICS for over 13 years now. My role within the thought leadership and analytics part of the organization is to look at the impact of data and technology right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 members working right across the globe, right across all the major asset types, and right across that broad land and property life cycle, all the way through land use itself, planning and development, construction, finance, brokerage, building surveying, valuation, building operation, asset management. It's an incredibly wide canvas upon which data and tech are having a very profound effect. And as I mentioned, our members work across all the main asset types, whether that's land itself, commercial, residential, alternative assets and infrastructure. And with the various issues around sustainability as well, it's important to realize what an important role that AI and data and tech will help with reducing the impact of the built environment on sustainability and net zero in general. So today, really glad to have Jodi Scarlett join me from EcoClaim. So welcome to the discussion, Jodi.
Thank you for having me.
And a pleasure. And I would like to start these conversations before we get into the kind of the data and the tech and that side of things, a little bit of the kind of the human side, a bit of your backstory actually, before we even talk about EcoClaim. So.
Yes, well, I'm the CEO of EcoClaim now, but prior to this role, I spent 20 plus years building a large construction and restoration company in Canada. And I also have a Bachelor of Commerce and an MBA and a passion for sustainability.
Well, that's great, and it's always great to when I talk to tech partners and people in the kind of data and tech space to find people who not only get the technology and bring in the tech people, but have that kind of knowledge of what is a kind of a complex area in terms of construction and the built environment. It's not the most simple of things, given all the different types of assets and that complexity of the property life cycle. So tell me, Jodi, what is the vision and mission for EcoClaim?
Well, at EcoClaim, we're heavily engaged in combating climate change. And we envision a world where everyone connected to the insurance sector achieves their emission reduction goals and become climate leaders. Really, we want to provide the insurance industry a marketplace for everything we need to create sustainable claims.
And what about tech? What's the technology doing? How does that sort of support that very laudable and very important aim?
We're a SaaS-enabled change management solution at our center, but we're more than that. We're really an end-to-end marketplace with our technology. And people don't always understand what a marketplace model is, so I prepared a little bit of a visual to show you that. So I'm going to share my screen. So this is how it works. The supply chain for insurance property claims has many participants that together create a marketplace. The three faces of the marketplace represent how EcoClaim makes money. The pillars are training and certification, SaaS, which is selling data to insurers, and of course our carbon exchange, which is selling offsets to the whole supply chain. Right. And fortunately, fundamentally, when a marketplace exists, it's kind of like a piggy bank. The larger the marketplace, the more products and services we can add to it. And that is how EcoClaim works.
So beguilingly simple, really. So I mean, what does the sort of the technology actually do? What's the power of crunching data and sort of supplying the data to this marketplace?
Yeah, more about the software, exactly. So really, what happens is when you look at the supply chain, as you saw it there, you have to identify hotspots for emissions reductions. And the software's job is to capture and track those reductions, and that's where the tech comes in. So, you know, we think of ourselves as a SaaS-enabled change management solution, right? So the SaaS takes the data about what emissions are reduced. So currently we're focusing on, an example is waste from landfill. So we measure the reduced or avoided emissions related to recycling instead of putting everything in landfill. And then that data is reported back in a dashboard, Andrew, that the insurers and members of the supply chain see. and provide information on, how many claims per claim, what does it look like in the regions. And it's really important to insurers to see their data not in a vacuum. Even as large as a single insurer might be, they are only seeing their own supply chain. But with our SaaS, they really can see their results benchmarked against industry.
And I guess that's an interesting point there about benchmarking, because there is a danger, as you say, of doing this in isolation. I mean, is that one of the things that makes your approach, I think, unique or differentiates you from other kind of players in the market?
That's a really great question. There's been a lot of effort placed on benchmarking what emissions data is, but there is a real needs gap because, we're sort of estimating from balance sheet entries, and people don't really have a great understanding of what the emissions actually are deep in the supply chain. And one of the solutions that EcoClaim brings to bear is real, I call it bottom up data, because we're digging so deep by defining that supply chain and really getting actual emissions numbers from everyone down that supply chain that haven't been available to market before. And the trouble with some of the large language models or LLMs that predict data is they're predicting based on what is known, and what is known is already flawed. So we really need technology in this way to bring the industry forward and bring, new and emerging data to the insurance companies, and that's what we're doing at EcoClaim.
I guess one question that does leap to mind is obviously there's a lot of activity in this area looking at almost other market participants, and I guess I'm really interested to hear about the approach that you're taking to the insurance sector, because that's new to me in terms of targeting them. And I suppose it's interesting to understand why they need this and the role the insurance sector plays in this whole property life cycle.
That's a really great question. I'll give you some stats that I find really interesting. Last year in 2023 in the US, they suffered from 28 individual catastrophic events that each cost more than $1 billion. And the total value of those events was about $200 billion, and 50% of it is attributed to climate change. But what I find really interesting is that the loss ratios in the US are up around 107%, meaning they're losing money on property claims. So they lost 21.2 billion last year. So, the trouble with the cycle is that, climate change is the root cause of claims. Property claims are heavy in GHG emissions because of the construction activity. So then those GHGs then contribute to climate change, which then causes more claims. And we end up in this sort of catch-22 cycle. So people don't always connect all those dots with respect to insurance, but insurers are certainly connecting the dots because they're losing 21.2 billion in the US, and also governments around the world are making the connection because over 40 countries have legislated some sort of emissions disclosure impacting insurance companies. And I would add, a lot of people think, insurance is such a nebulous concept, and they think, well, how could they have so many emissions, But their property claims and their own operations account for about 45% of their operational emissions, and probably the most heavy contributor of that is related to their property claims.
Yeah, so I guess it's amazing to sort of reflect on that and realize what a significant role they play, as you say, in both, unfortunately, raising emissions, but also the opportunity to bring them down. So, I mean, what are the challenges from your perspective in terms of addressing a market like this? Because on the one hand, it seems like a no-brainer to use the vernacular, but are there challenges in terms of getting the sector to realize the implications and realize what the solution is?
Well, my mother used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's a real challenge, which is why with EcoClaim, our marketplace is, I call it a change management solution that's SaaS-enabled. Because if we just stood up for the data, there would be no data to have. We really have to see ourselves in this marketplace as a training and certification body, because the commitment to sustainability is multi-year. It's ongoing, it requires change, and somebody has to develop these processes that enable the supply chain to implement them. We have to meet them where they are on claims.
Yeah. And are you starting from a market perspective? Are you starting just North America, or do you have plans to kind of move outside of where you're currently kind of working?
Well, we started in Canada, and I always joke that Canada is a bit of a beta test but we know this market, and it's a tenth of the size of the US market and a third of the size of the UK market. And, we really have gained a lot of traction here. And it's just traction that's sort of immutable, right? It's coming to the UK, it's coming to the US because the more we talk to people, they just need the solution. I don't think we can stop it. And really, we're the only ones in the world approaching the problem in this way.
So from that point of view, I read that your expansion is almost inevitable here. That having started in your home territory, I mean, are there any challenges from a kind of a data acquisition, from a kind of business model perspective in terms of moving this outside of Canada and North America?
It hasn't really presented too many challenges other than the logistics of scaling a company in multiple countries, as an insurtech startup. All of those are completely surmountable, but I just can't say we've been so well received. And everybody takes the meetings and is interested in what we're doing, and really sees the model as an answer.
Indeed. And are you, as a startup, are you in one of those various sort of stages of funding? Are you managing to do this organically, or are you looking to kind of VC or other sources of funding to help that expansion run smoothly?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were incubated inside of MBC, one of Canada's largest cost consultancies, for a couple of years, and then born, only this year, and really started our seed funding round. We're very, very selective with funding because it's really important that investors are aligned with our sustainability goals and our goals and thoughts around the carbon marketplace. So, we're quite picky, I would say, but have had no trouble raising the seed funding. And, I'm sure heading towards Series A in the near future for the right partners.
And you mentioned that market reaction has been good. I mean, what sort of traction are you getting? And I'm also interested to hear, at the risk of asking two questions at once, that kind of piece around, carbon credits, that the trading side of things. There's obviously both the SaaS and the training and raising market awareness, but obviously there's a number of different elements to what you're providing. So keen to hear about how the traction is working, and how the market is responding to those various parts of what you're offering now.
Yeah, I'll take the carbon question first, of course. The market is going to need offsets. There's really no way to get to net zero without offsets, but offsets can be problematic. So our first and foremost starting point is, let's get real data. Let's see where we are. Let's do better at home. Fundamentally the challenge with offsets is, just doing the same bad behaviors here, and buying an offset over there isn't really the right approach. So everyone is aligned with EcoClaim because we take this approach of let's do better at what we do. Let's not put all of our waste in landfill, for example. But then when it comes to offsets, the challenge is the way Scope 3 emissions work. It's the whole supply chain has to be at zero. 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 0. That's how insurers will achieve net zero. So companies are starting to see the writing on the wall that they're going to have to measure, they're going to have to reduce, they're going to have to buy some offsets. We are a solution for all of that. And, with our offset partnership platform, the idea is that insurers can control the quality of offsets that are being purchased, because it's really important that quality is well controlled due to the reputational risks associated. So that's the future that we see in terms of that. And then you also asked about traction, so I will show you another screen. So this is have a little look at Canada, what's happening in Canada for us. And, really this is just within a few months of launching, several hundred individuals, almost 500, our courses are sold out. We've ingested over 600 claims, which, by and large isn't a lot in the world of claims, but it is showing a successful traction in us getting started. And this is actually happening in 64 firms across Canada, fully onboarded with, I said, a sold out pipeline of new firms going forward. Almost all the major banners are participating with us in some form or fashion. And we've already diverted almost 750,000 kilos of GHGs. So we're really, really excited about these impacts, and what we tell our firms that we onboard, our certified firms, is that, now is the time to make change. And, you just have to get that canoe in the water and get paddling, and those GHG reductions will come.
Indeed, and I suppose it's worth emphasising again, I suppose that thing you talked about earlier of change management, that there's obviously a big educational piece to this, to get people's heads in the right place and understand that, yes, they probably realise it's a kind of a regulatory piece and there's various sort of drivers coming down, but I suppose there is still a large educational piece that you're doing.
It's really the heart of things, and that's sort of my background, from the beginning, having worked in that supply chain on claims for so many years and just understanding them so deeply. I really understand what it takes to drive that change and how difficult it is. In particular, for the contractors that have the biggest impact on GHG emissions in that supply chain. And we really build a lot of technology that meets them where they are. It's a lot about leveraging what they're already using. So although we have a SaaS that's tracking this data, a lot of that data is collected using their existing tools. We have a great partnership with Encircle, that over 80% of our supply chain certified firms are using already. So, and that's sustainability too, right? Not incurring more costs, not incurring more software, that kind of thing. So that's all part of change management.
Yeah, and I guess I suppose it's an important point there that a critique often of kind of data and tech in the built environment is that sort of lack of integration between systems. So it is important to kind of make sure that you can just simply link in with existing data and that kind of stuff, because otherwise I think it gets hard, doesn't it?
Well, being software agnostic was a very deliberate choice at EcoClaim for that reason. I really wouldn't want that software barrier to be a reason why firms couldn't participate in sustainability action, in particular with respect to emissions reductions. So that's just been fundamental to us at EcoClaim.
Yeah, and I guess with such a kind of a fragmented and complex supply chain, that's doubly important, isn't it? Because you have so many participants, really, that if you try and enforce a whole new kind of platform right across that, it's going to be very challenging, isn't it?
Correct.
Indeed. Well, it's been fascinating to talk to you, and it certainly opened my eyes to the importance of the insurance sector, because we were focused so much, I think, on new build and forgetting this huge issue around, unfortunately, as you say, increasing kind of issues of having to deal with claims, and the fact that so much embodied carbon is now being effectively expended to remedy the fact that we've seen climate change rather cause this damage. So as you say, we want to break out of this doom loop, don't we? That we don't want to cause more damage that again causes more carbon to be consumed. So a really important area. Well, for today, Jodi, thanks ever so much for your time. It's been fascinating to chat to you, and I look forward to catching up again soon in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you.